Nerdverse is all the tizzy right now because we just had a famous streamer, video game streamer by the name of Pewdiepie come out of the Linux closet and claim that he's a Linux user now. It's a wonderful thing. It's going to bring a lot of exposure to Linux, and I'm all for it. And I didn't know much about Pewdiepie. I knew that he was very famous. I knew he had a lot of subscribers. I know he's been on the platform forever. I knew he was a streamer. I knew that there's some controversy surrounding him. So he is quite the character. He is extremely talented. He is extremely charismatic. He is funny as all get out. I enjoyed watching him. This was actually my first time seeing him, and I really enjoyed it. But there are some things that I want to comment on about Linux and about how he views Linux. Okay, let's take a look at what this wild man has to say.
Number one, Windows talks to me like I'm a baby. Now, mentally, I might be, but that does not warrant. You want Candy Crush? You want Candy Crush on your computer? You want to use Bing? Yes. Are you sure you want to delete that file? Are you super duper sure you want to delete the file? That's how it talks to me, and I don't like it. Linux, on the other hand, literally puts a gun in your hand and says, my first sort of aha moment when I installed Linux or started using it was, wait a minute, it does exactly what I want it to do. And there's just a really powerful feeling about that. Reason number two.
All right, so clearly he's an entertainer and he's super funny. But his first reasoning is that you can do whatever you want with it, and that is true. You can customize Linux quite a bit. But what he's not telling you on that side of it is that you're going to have to learn a tremendous amount to get to that point to customize Linux. You're going to have to learn the basics, then you're going to have to learn some intermediate stuff, and then you're going to have to even learn some what I consider even some advanced things. You're going to have to edit like configuration files. You're going to have to go into code. So this isn't really an apples to apples comparison when it comes to something like Windows or Mac OS and then Linux. So again, right off reason one, yes, he is correct, but understand in order to get Linux to where you want it, it's a whole lot of knowledge, hundreds of hours of study and learning in order to even get to that point. So let's move on to see what he has to say about reason number two.
As an epic minimalist, the bloat is real. It always bothered me. Anytime I install a new Windows, I spent like an hour trying to uninstall all the pre-packaged BS that I don't want. Windows is like, I know you paid $100 or whatever for me, but I'm still gonna put ads in here. Yes. Put a little AI in here. You want that, right? That doesn't benefit me. It's for you, the consumer. Bing! It doesn't benefit me that you use Bing, but please use Bing. Microsoft is an annoying suite, apparently.
Okay, again, not wrong. Windows is very, very bloated, but you can debloat it rather easily. So unlike Linux that you can select to do a minimum install, not have a whole bunch of bloatware, you have to manually do that. Or you can install something very minimal, but then you have to add things back in. Whereas Windows gives you everything, and then you just have to debloat it or subtract it. So you just need to go in and remove like 2/3 of those programs that you don't need. And then you can easily go on Google and type in debloat Windows. Now it'll give you some manual instructions on how to do that, but it will also, provide a script. Just be careful when you're downloading those scripts that will do it for you. So know that it's just two different approaches. It's like, I'm going to give you everything in the kitchen sink, and then you can start taking it away. Or I'm going to give you nothing, a blank canvas, and then you have to figure out what you need, and you have to install each one. So which one's easier, in my opinion? Not to sound like a Windows fanboy, but it's really easy to debloat Windows. And again, he doesn't tell you that part.
With Linux, nothing. Serenity. Peace. Don't even get me started on the Windows taskbar. You control what's on your computer. Duh. It
takes effort,
obvious.
though.
How is this not a thing?
Knowledge.
Reason number three, customization. I discovered this afterwards. Customizing on Linux is a beautiful thing. On Windows, you can maybe change your wallpaper, change a little bit of colors, whoopity-doo. On Linux, you can change reality itself. Since Linux is built modular, you can swap out your GUI entirely. You don't even have to use one. You can cut off the head of Linux and it'll still be like, hey, I'm here, what's up? Customizing on Linux is called rising, and I got way too into it. I cooked hard. I can't wait to show you guys.
And he says it right there. He cooked hard. Rising is an advanced technique. Hundreds of hours to get there if you're coming from no knowledge of Linux. Now, he's right about the GUIs. That's really cool. You can apply different GUIs. I prefer Plasma and Plasma Mobile. I think that gives you a lot of out-of-the-box customization that you can do to the desktop, and you can do a lot of different things. But understand, same story as the other parts. You're going to have to build this. You're going to have to compile all this. You're going to have to go into code. You're going to have to understand that part of it. So he's not letting on his knowledge. And he's not letting on the effort, the hours, countless hours that it's going to take in order for you to customize even your desktop, if that's what you want to do, but customize your install of Linux, especially if you start getting into kernel work and stuff like that. It's not as simple as he's saying.
Now, reason number 4, gaming. Gaming on Linux is finally real. I actually installed Linux 15 years ago. That's right, I'm old. And I uninstalled it after like a couple days, as a lot of people do, when they realize, oh, I can't use the things I need on Linux. And for me, that was gaming back then, because it's like, well, then what's the point? But now, gaming on Linux is real at last. So Valve came in like Gandalf in Helm's Deep, riding a Steam Deck with Proton.
If nothing else, he's
so I think
hilarious,
this is a perfect example how Linux benefits everyone. The fact that Valve as a company recognized maybe Microsoft has a bit too much power. If they wanted to and started being shady, locking things down, taking cuts, they absolutely could, and it's not like it would be uncharacteristics for them to do. So Valve started improving gaming on Linux, boosted driver support, and they built on what was already there from open source software like Wine. By doing this, Valve benefits, consumer benefits, ecosystem grows, win, win, win. If you're
So yes and no. Linux gaming has come a far way, and definitely Valve and Steam is a part of that. But they didn't do it from some altruistic reason. What they did it for was to create a cheaper handheld device instead of having to pay like $100 for licensing to Microsoft or more. They could use Linux, which doesn't have the system requirements. You can use lower grade hardware and even RAM, CPUs, and still run Linux very efficiently because we can customize it. And that's all that they did. They customized their own version, if you will, of the Steam Deck OS, which is Linux based. And yes, that helped push a lot of the stuff. And they used Wine, which is a technology that will allow you to run Windows based, x86 based software on a Linux box, but it's not perfect. Doesn't work perfectly all the time. I've used it for quite some time. It's getting better and better each year, but it's not perfect. And then he also talks about some of the other protocols like Proton that they've helped push along. That is just going to give you the ability to play like emulated games and even regular games and make it more compatible with Linux. So these are all very strong things, but don't get it twisted. You're still going to run into a lot of your games. You're not going to get your full Steam library. You're either going to have games that have been made or packaged to work on the Steam Deck, or what you can do most of the time, and what I have to do, is use the Steam client to stream from my PC. So I still have my gaming PC. I can then use that resources, that GPU, and I can stream it to something like a Raspberry Pi. So I wish he would have brought that up, just because I don't want people to think that it's super easy to game on this stuff. And anytime you're using any type of emulator, like Wine or anything like those protocols that have been made to like Proton to make it easier to play, that's just another layer of complexity and something to go wrong. So it's not as straightforward gaming on Linux as what he's trying to make it out to be.
Swapping to Linux, you'll likely have to give something up. I don't know what that is, but for me, it was Photoshop. I used Photoshop, again, for 15 years. All the shortcuts, all my workflow, it's all baked into my brain. The way I use Photoshop, I don't think about it. It's just, here's the thumbnail. It's not beautiful, but I get the job done. Unfortunately, Adobe is a garbage company, and their software just won't run on Linux. A lot of artists are jumping ship. They don't want to use Adobe anymore because they realize it's a terrible company. So like I said, the open source alternative is GIMP. And since this is Linux, open source, you can do whatever you want. I downloaded this icon pack that changed the icons so they look like the Photoshop icons. That helped a little bit. Then I downloaded a shortcut command list that matches the one on Photoshop. Boom, made it a little easier. You know, I'm still not 100% used to it, but the fact that I can do stuff like this really helps. For me, personally, a worthy sacrifice. I hope this doesn't sound like copium, but genuinely, it feels good that I was able to move on. At the end of the day, some tools are only gonna work on Windows and only gonna work on Mac, but what you gain on Linux is so much more. Freedom. Join us.
I mean, I like how he bookended that because, listen, GIMP is good. You just got to get used to it. But the overreaching thing here is what he said at the end. Not all programs, you're not going to find apple to apples programs, and they're not all going to work on Linux, right? So one of the big things that he doesn't mention, but he alludes to, is now you got to go out and research which ones work. You got to go out and find a repository that you can download and use. You got to see if it's updated and maintained. So there is a whole lot of research just going into figuring out some comparable programs that you may need on the open source side or that work with Linux.
Now that I've convinced you to swap to Linux, you have the wonderful choice of picking a distro. Yay, so many of them. I hear people going like, I don't know which one to pick. What do I do? There's so many. Just pick one. It's a wonderful thing that you can choose.
No. Don't listen to that. Don't just pick one. Don't just throw a dart and be like, hey, that's the one I land on. There is a lot of them that are good. I'll recommend a few if you're starting out, but you want to make sure that you're researching this. In fact, I have a video, I'll put it down below, and basically it shows you how to use your PC to set up something called VirtualBox. And you can download these distros and you can try them out in a non-destructive way. Don't go and just install this on a laptop erase, unless you're willing to, lose all the information. Make sure you understand what distribution you're using, because a lot of these are custom designed for certain specific tasks, and they're not that great for like your average desktop user. I would think if you're starting out, you might want to look at something like Ubuntu, Xbuntu, something like that. I happen to be a Debian user. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned this, but I use my GUI, if you will, is a Plasma. And I think that is a great way to go. So Debian and Plasma is what I would push a lot of people to, but a lot of people really do like Ubuntu. I'm just used to Debian because I come from the Raspberry Pi world, and it's just a really solid distribution that I really like to use. Again, don't just willy-nilly choose like he's saying, like it doesn't matter. That is so wrong. And again, I think this can just breed discontent, because if you download the wrong one, and let's say it's a distribution that's made for digital signage, for example, or it's a distribution that's made for hackers, well, you're going to be like kind of lost. Whereas you download Ubuntu, especially if you download it with all the bloatware, well, basically like a full install, well, basically you're going to be pretty familiar, if you're familiar with Windows, at least how to somewhat get around, and there's a lot of documentation. That's the other thing. Some of these smaller distributions don't have a huge community around them. So you want to be with one of these major ones. I completely disagree with what he's saying here. Just do your research, or else it's going to breed discontent and you probably won't go back.
Understand, the world is your flavor. Look at all these spices. I went with Mint because it's the same one that I installed 15 years ago, and I knew that it was beginner friendly and that it still holds up. It very much feels like Windows, just better, okay? You don't even need to touch the scary terminal. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's okay. You should though. It just made me realize, just like on Windows, if my computer is kind of slow, you just kind of deal with it. It's like, oh, okay, well, what can you do? On Linux, it's like, the world is your oyster. You can fix it. Personally, I like that kind of stuff. The second thing that blew my...
So the first thing he mentioned was that startup speeds, right? And he's not mentioning that you can fix this on Windows as well. So there's a couple things I can recommend. First of all, you want to make sure you're checking on the bloatware and removing that stuff. Then the next thing you want to do is go in to look at what system services are starting and what software is starting on boot for your Windows machine. This can really slow it down. The other thing too is, are you on an old hard drive that has a spinning platter, or are you on a SSD, right? A solid state drive, or an M2, NVMe. Those are going to be faster. The other thing you might want to consider is defragging your drive. Just taking care and doing some maintenance. You can also go to Google, much like we did before, and just type in, how can I make it start up faster? What services can I turn off in Windows 11, for example? If you just follow those guides, you can make it faster. So don't, again, he's kind of glancing over that part. Like, I'm not a Windows fanboy. I just want you guys to understand, yes, you can still do that in Windows, and you can certainly do it in Linux. But again, we're back to the age-old thing that you need to know how to do it first.
My mind with the Linux terminal was just how fast it is at searching. Searching on Windows is so annoying. It takes forever.
Oh, come on, bro.
Sometimes
Who
it doesn't
searches
even
like that?
find the file, even though you type the name of it perfectly. And a lot of times they just Bing it. They're like, "Oh, you want to search for your file? Oh, maybe no. Actually, you want to look it online. That's what you want to do." It's like, no. Linux, you can find any file, whatever you want. This is searching all JPEGs on my computer. That's a bad example, actually. The other thing that I love about it is that you don't have to just search the file. You can also search text inside the file. So let's say you forgot what the file is called, but you remember roughly some stuff inside it. You can grep it and bada bing, bada boom. What the hell is this? Spotify password text. Balls deep. I did not do that. What? Searching files on Linux is super fast. It made me realize just how it should be on a computer again. The most obvious...
Okay, so he just is unaware again on how to efficiently search, how to use CMD. You can do the same thing on Windows, just got to know how. He's just not aware
thing
of it.
with the terminal is that, let's say you install the operating system and you need to also put all the programs that you want to use on it. Usually you have to go on the browser, Google it, look up their page, go to their download page, dodge all the fake ads and all that crap, and do that and install and run each one, wait for it to install, yada yada. It takes forever. On Linux, you just go sudo apt install, what do we want? We want VLC, Firefox, OBS Studio, boom, thank you. And now I can sit and look at the screen and feel like I'm a hacker. Yes, I know what all of this means.
So he is correct there. It's always weird that you have to download a mini program or installer on a Windows machine or even DMG on a Mac, and then you have to open that up to install the program. So it is a bit inefficient. This is really easy way to do it. You can pull from built-in repositories, and you can also pull from things like GitHub. But again, you have to know that, and also you have to vet out those repositories when you pull them. So it's a little bit different of a way of doing it, but it is absolutely faster. And it does assume, again, that you are comfortable using the terminal. So instead of double clicking like we're used to on an installer, you're actually issuing commands on a command line or terminal. So you have to be comfortable with that. He's assuming that you're ready to get over that hurdle, which is a huge hurdle for a lot of people.
I had this old laptop. I mean, it's not that old, but I just never used it because I didn't really like using it. I mentioned before there's many distros of Linux, and I wanted to try one called Arch, partially because of the meme. It's kind of become a meme because it's a little difficult to install Arch, so it's like a flex to use it. For some reason, I went on a God run and I had no issue. I always get stuck on the dumbest ever for like 12 hours. I don't know what happened that time. But I also wanted to download Arch because it's a minimalist distro. Whatever you put, or at least 90% of it, is there because you decided to put it there. And it's also very highly customizable, which are two elements that I love, so I knew I was gonna love it.
Okay, there was a bit of Easter eggs there. First of all, he says it. He said, normally I run into a problem. I spend 12 hours trying to figure it out on Linux. That is a commonality. That's going to happen a lot to you. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. You're going to have to hit the forums. You're going to have to do a tremendous amount of research, and that rarely happens on other operating systems like Mac OS or Windows, for example. So, him saying that he spent 12 hours on a problem, I can tell you as someone that routinely does that, that is going to happen to you. So, again, more time. The other thing that he mentioned, including with that, was the fact that you have to build everything. So you have to install everything. You have to kind of architect it. You have to, visualize it in your mind. You have to go out and see what's available. And then you have to install all these things. And you have to hope that the dependencies are there. Then you probably have to troubleshoot, so on and so forth. And that's what he's alluding to in this little piece. So reading between the lines, you can kind of start to see what I'm worried about, which is people are going to see this and think it's super easy, but it's clearly not.
Thing which I have on Mint as well is just shortcuts on my keyboard to open programs, open terminal, open file manager, open browser, close it, whatever, it's all there. It's such a nice workflow and have a more keyboard-centric way of using your computer, especially on a laptop.
That's all in Windows 2. He just doesn't know how to do it. Like, you can certainly install programs that allow you to even extend shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, and there's also a ton built into Windows. So I don't think that's a mute point. It doesn't really matter. You can do the same thing with Windows.
But even in general, you know, the whole like, okay, let me click on the start menu and just find the thing. So I'm running Hyperland, which is this beautiful tile manager. It automatically sorts it for me whenever I open something. This is such a nice workflow, and I can close it all as well. You can literally open these until infinite. When you're on a laptop,
So that's pretty cool, those tiles. You can do that in Windows, but it's not going to automatically resize them. You're only going to get a certain amount. There are programs, again, you can install in Windows that allow you to somewhat do with this, but it's nice that there's a program and quite a few of them. He mentioned the name of it there. I can't remember what it's called, but that is really slick. I really do like that, but it's not that much undifferent than what Windows has hard baked in, other than you can put a lot more windows and it's going to automatically tile them to different sizes.
have limited screen space, it's such a great way to work with it. The fact that they're always there means I never have to look for them because I know they're there. And if my workspace is full, I can look at this, swap to another one. This is workspace number 2 and
Okay, yeah, he says it right there. You can do this with Windows.
Number 4.
You've been able to do this for Windows forever. I actually have my mouse here, and on my scroll wheel, if I go left or right this way with it instead of this way, then that's going to switch my different virtual desktops on Windows. So this is mute as well. You can do this well within Windows and have been for quite some time.
I've been recording OBS from here. Let's say I'm working on a project on Workspace 1. I can then work on another thing on Workspace 2 and go back and forth vice versa instantly. But then I open my browser and it's like, you see that? Ew. Again. Oh, that took forever. And it loads so ugly. So my first thought, okay, well, maybe I can upgrade my SSD to make it snappier and quicker. But then I thought, I'm on Linux. I can do whatever I want. So let's run a time here, Firefox. Let's ignore the CSS errors. I tinkered a bit too much. Don't worry about it.
Okay, see, that right there should tell you. He says he's not a tech guy, which I disagree with. He's a tech guy. He has been a streamer for 10 years. He's used OBS. He's modded video games. He's a tech guy. And you can tell right here, he's been messing with CSS. Like, he is very knowledgeable on this subject. He's trying to play it off like, oh, I'm a newbie. Oh, everybody should do this. It's all rainbows and sunshine. No, he's been doing a lot of work in here. As he mentions that. But this should go to show you that he knows what he's doing. And what he's about to do is make this faster. And instead of stopping it, we'll go through this real quick. But this is really cool, which is really hard to do on Windows. He doesn't really tell you what he does, which is a good indicator that he's either working with someone that knows Linux or he's been using Linux. This isn't a noob by any means. This is just a really good example that he is not a noob.
What was that? 2 seconds? Not good enough.
But he's a hell of an entertainer.
So I figured out a way, and it's so dumb. I won't explain how I did it, but the fact that I was able to do it, boom, instant. Boom.
That's
boom,
pretty cool.
Boom.
That is cool.
Boom! The first thing I customized was Waybar. Oh, I forgot to say I can move around as well if I want to. Anyway, and move them to a different workspace. So yeah, this is my taskbar. It's like the Windows taskbar, except you decide exactly what's on it and customizing it. I put calendar, turn it on and off, internet, Bluetooth, quick access to all these things, I really enjoy this as well. It's basically just tells me if I'm connected to NordVPN or not, and I can toggle by clicking on it, and it tells me which country I'm connected to. Here we have my uptime. Just how long it's been running and how much until my battery is out. I should probably charge my laptop. CPU temp, I should probably change, cool it down a bit. This is so sick to me because I'm remembering what this laptop used to be running Windows. I never wanted to use it. I hated it. Now it went from a hardware that I never used to my favorite piece of hardware because it not just looks great, it runs great. I love it. It's so sick. I had so much fun customizing this. It was just a blast.
Putting on an old laptop, I agree with him wholeheartedly. It's like a whole new beast when you put on Linux because it's not as taxing. So even an older laptop seems really new. It seems really fast. And it is a really great joy to put Linux on an old laptop and watch it come to life. I use an old MacBook Air. I think it's like 2014, and I put Debian and of course Plasma on there, and it works like a charm. So he's right. That joy is really fun to just breathe new life into something like an old laptop.
I built this camera as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you can communicate with Linux even without a graphical user interface, GUI. That made me so excited because I'm like, wait, that means I can use other computers at my disposal. For some reason, to me, that's just like really cool, and I wanted to try what I could do with it. I want to show this in another video maybe, because I feel like it's too much yapping, but I gotta be real as well. Linux is not.
So before we go on, he goes into some of the drawbacks here. Again, just illustrates that he is a tech person. It's great that he's kind of moving into that makerspace, like what I do and what a lot of us do and have been doing. So it's nice to see this mainstreamer kind of discover the joy. You know, that was clearly an embedded electronic, probably maybe a Raspberry Pi or something. I didn't really good look at it, but really cool that he's jumping into this. I'm highly supportive of it, but you're not building something like that camera unless you know what you're doing. So again, just builds on this whole conversation about him.
Not perfect. There's a lot of issues. A good example is, again, my laptop. When I first installed Arch, none of my F keys worked. Actually, sorry, 3 out of 12 worked out of the box. So I had spent a long time bringing them back to life. For me, it was kind of fun. I was like, oh, got another one working. Like, okay, let's move on to the next one. But I can imagine for a lot of people that just want things to work, you know, maybe this is not for you. And maybe it should work, you know? I think since Linux is not as popular on desktop as Windows or Mac, this is just the reality. There's just not enough support for it. On Linux, if something doesn't work, it's kind of up to you to fix it. And yeah, that's just how it is. I was trying to update my drivers for my GPU, and I got a black screen 6 times. And I had to do a hard restore every time. Which is why I need you to install Linux, so the more people we can get together, the better Linux
you're
becomes.
now a champion, right?
And I get it now. Like, that's why people were
it.
so excited about me using Linux. Because Linux is not a product, it's a platform.
It's a lifestyle, bro.
And it also already exists everywhere. NASA, SpaceX, it runs on Linux. All the supercomputers, your TV, your smart fridge, your phone if it's Android, it's all Linux, baby. So please consider joining in. Now, if you're even just a little bit curious, I recommend trying Linux. Maybe try dual booting it if you're not sure.
Be very careful with dual booting. Make sure you know what you're doing. I don't recommend this. I'd rather see you put it on a USB stick, go into the BIOS of your Windows computer, tell it to boot to a USB, or use a virtual machine. Again, link down below. VirtualBox shows you how to set it all up. Please be careful dual booting. You go into things like Grub, and if you don't do it in the right order, there's things that you can really screw up. So don't listen to this part either unless you're willing to take that risk and you back up the machine. I'll get off my soapbox, but please don't listen to this part.
Sure, you can still keep your Windows or whatever. You're gonna kill it later. You might as well kill it now. Test it out, break it, get upset. On Linux, I feel alive at
See how I said that? Get upset. See, he knows. He's alluding to it, which I appreciate.
at long last. Thank you for watching. Let me just type out my goodbyes.
What a dummy. He's hilarious. So this is all great news. Pewdiepie is one of us. Well, I suspect he was always one of us, but maybe he's even more one of us. You know, that thing at the end he showed with the camera, man, how cool would it be if he gets in this space and he starts making and stuff? The dude is a superstar. He's a super talent. I'm just, you know, don't think I'm flaming him. I have a lot of respect for him in many ways. And I think he's super intelligent. And I'm not doubting that he could do this rather quickly and get to the state that he's in. I'm just saying that more than likely he has a lot more experience than he's letting on. And that's okay. That's not a flame. At the end of the day, he's helping to mainstream Linux. And I couldn't be more happy for that reason. I love Linux. I think Linux is an incredible thing. And as I mentioned with that learning curve, if you can just stay with it and be really dedicated on your path to learning Linux, once you get over that little hump, man, it's smooth sailing. And you do, like he says, feel this sense of freedom. That's the thing he does a really good job of capturing. And that is just the joy that comes from Linux. I can't tell you how much I really like solving the problems that I run into and how much I really like the community surrounds it. We're all citizens of the world. We're all here to help each other. And you don't find that too often in life. So I'm proud to call myself part of the Linux community. I'm a proud daily user of Linux, and I really am appreciative to all the people around the world that have contributed to these projects to make this possible. And the fact that PewDiePie is now using it and publicizing it, man, I appreciate you, bruh. Anyways, I hope you'll like and consider subscribing. My name's HillPhantom. I'll see you next time.